So, if you've spent any time at all around the tech world, you've heard the word agile. It's everywhere, right? But what does it really mean? Is it just a buzzword for moving fast, or is there something deeper going on? Well, we're going to pull back the curtain and really demystify the philosophy that completely changed how we build software.
It seems like a totally reasonable question, doesn't it? I mean, you wouldn't build a house without a detailed blueprint. You'd plan every last nail. So why can't we do the same thing with software? And that question, right there, gets to the absolute heart of why Agile was even invented.
To really get agile, you got to rewind to the late 1990s. Things were moving at a breakneck pace. The market, your competitors, what customers wanted, everything was changing like daily. And the old way of building software with these long, drawn-out, rigid plans, well, it just couldn't keep up, not even close.
And this was the fundamental problem. Just imagine spending a whole year, maybe more, carefully planning and then building a piece of software. You followed the plan to the letter, but on launch day, you find out the business has changed so much that your shiny new product is already irrelevant. Your perfect plan was obsolete before you even finished. This wasn't a rare thing. This was happening all the time.
So you can imagine people got pretty frustrated with these slow, document-heavy methods that just weren't working anymore. And out of that frustration, a whole new way of thinking was born. This wasn't just another process. No, this was a complete reboot of how to build things in a world that simply won't stand still. Okay, so here's how Agile basically flips the old model on its head. Instead of having these long, separate stages, first you plan, then you design, then you build, you do it all at the same time, all interwoven. You build the software in small, usable chunks. And the real magic is the constant feedback. You get working versions out the door frequently, you keep the actual stakeholders in the loop, and the big focus is on creating code that works, not just writing massive documents about it. And you can really see the philosophical split right here. On one side, you have the plan-driven world, where you try to nail down every decision up front. Any iteration is just a small tweak within a big, fixed phase. But with Agile, iteration is the whole process. Everything is blended together, and the final product is something you discover and negotiate along the way.
So that's the big idea, but how does it actually look in practice, day to day? Well, a fantastic example is one of the first Agile methods to get famous, extreme programming, or as everyone calls it, XP. It basically took these Agile ideas and pushed them to their logical, well, extreme, with some really specific ways of actually writing the code.
One of XP's core practices is something called refactoring. The best way to think about this is like constantly tidying up your workshop while you're building something. You're not adding new features, you're just cleaning, organizing, and simplifying your tools and your code so that the next thing you build is easier and faster. It keeps everything clean and stops things from becoming a tangled mess.
Now here's an idea that seems totally backwards at first. Test-first development. Before you even write a single line of code to do a thing, you write a test that checks if that thing works. Then your only job is to write the absolute minimum amount of code needed to make that test pass. You see how that flips the script? Quality isn't something you check for at the end, it's literally the first thing you build.
XP is also huge on collaboration, and the prime example is pair programming. Yep, 2 developers, 1 computer, 1 keyboard. It sounds inefficient, I know, but trust me, it is incredibly powerful. Every single line of code is reviewed as it's written. Knowledge spreads through the team like wildfire, and it seriously lowers the risk to the project if a key person decides to leave.
Okay, so XP gives us some fantastic engineering habits. But what about managing the whole project? How do you organize all this work? Well, that's where Scrum comes in. And if you've heard of Agile, you've probably heard of Scrum. It's easily the most popular Agile framework out there for managing projects. Scrum gives the whole thing a clear structure with some key roles and concepts. You've got the product owner, whose job is to decide what needs to be built and in what order. Then there's the development team, a small, self-organizing group that figures out how to build it. And the Scrum Master is like a coach, making sure the process works and protecting the team from outside noise. All the potential work lives in one big, prioritized list, the product backlog, and gets tackled in these short bursts called sprints.
And the work flows in this really steady, predictable rhythm. At the start of a sprint, the team pulls a small chunk of work from the top of the list. They spend the next couple of weeks building it. They check in with each other every single day to stay aligned. At the end, they show what they actually built to get feedback. And then, they do it all over again. It creates this powerful, consistent heartbeat for the project.
So Agile sounds pretty amazing, right? It's adaptive, it's collaborative, it's fast. But is it the perfect solution for everything? Is it a silver bullet? Well, as more and more big companies have tried to go all in on Agile, they've started to bump up against some very real-world challenges.
And here is the biggest hurdle. Agile was born from the idea of a small team, all in one room, talking face-to-face all day long. That informal communication is its superpower. But trying to recreate that magic with hundreds of developers spread across multiple continents and time zones, that is incredibly difficult. The original model just wasn't built for that kind of scale.
And this means, let's be honest, that sometimes the old-school plan-driven way might actually be the better choice. I mean, if you're building flight control software for a new airplane, you can't just negotiate requirements as you go. You need an incredibly detailed upfront plan. You need tons of documentation, especially when there are strict regulations and people's safety is on the line. Which brings us to where most of the software world really lives today. It's not about choosing one or the other. It's not a battle between Agile and planning. The smartest, most effective teams don't pick a side. They create a hybrid. They blend the two philosophies, using Agile's flexibility where it thrives and plan-driven discipline where it's absolutely necessary.
So maybe the real goal isn't just to be agile. Maybe the goal is simply to be effective. And that often means building your own unique process, a thoughtful mix that's tailored for your project, your team, and your company. So the real question to leave you with is, what's the right balance for you?